This is one of the first times we're not going to start a show where you say to me, so you're wrong about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Well, you know, that is a trending theme
and then
at the
I have
moment.
to rubbish you. And then
Well, you didn't really rubbish me. You did admit that you were wrong about it yesterday. Spurs 1, Fulham 1 is how it would finish. Harry Kane opening the score in the first half. Cavallero then with a nice equaliser for Fulham. And we have seen this time and time again with Spurs, haven't we?
I have no sympathy for Tottenham at the moment. I've got sympathy for the supporters in a sense, if I can be sympathetic. But when I talked about them against Liverpool, where they played a defensive game at Anfield, but they were a big threat on the counter, created some great chances. Bergwijn should have had himself a couple of goals in the second half. I don't mind that kind of approach. You're playing Liverpool, you're away. I have got no sympathy for a Tottenham side who could have gone, I think, third tonight, who could have put a bit more pressure on, and they're at home against a team in the bottom three, albeit a team that started the season terribly and have started to improve a little bit by little bit. But after scoring a great goal, and I mean a great goal with that Reguilón cross and the Harry Kane header, to allow a team struggling against relegation to dominate you in the second half, to let them get on the front foot, to let them get some confidence, I think is inexcusable from the manager. I mean, I really do. How many Fulham players, and they're all hard-working young guys, and they're all in the Premier League, some of them from the first time, how many of them would get into that Spurs side? How many? And yet, once again, Spurs are allowing teams, Mourinho is allowing teams to keep themselves in the game and give themselves a chance to get on the front foot and get an equaliser and potentially get a winner. I think it's really unacceptable from the manager to be approaching games, particularly against sides that are weaker in the Premier League. I get it against Man City and Liverpool and these sides. I just don't get it against teams that you could go and you could really pressurise them and you could kill the game off. I don't understand it.
Jurgen, how do you explain that? You know, Spurs were good in the first half. They had chances to extend their lead. Then they come out after the break and they just look a shell of themselves.
Well, how do you explain that? First of all, you know, it would have been great if they scored 2 or 3 goals in the first half. They had the chances. Son had 2 almost 100% chances. Harry Kane had another good one. If you put them in, then it's a totally different story. Obviously, it's all about consistency. And if you want to win the title in the Premier League, you got to be consistent and you got to put those type of games away. And unfortunately, they didn't do that today. Unfortunately, they let Fulham back into the game. You got to give them credit as well. They played a very, very tough game. They gave everything they had. But that's what to expect because they fight relegation. So once they scored the equalizer, they even try to go for a winner there. So it's a lost for Spurs. Absolutely lost opportunity to catch up with the top 2. Unfortunately, that's the way it went.
Frank, the only time Spurs did anything in the second half really of note was when Fulham got the equaliser. It was like the kick up the backside they needed to get them back into life. But you think, come on, you're supposed to be a team that we talked about being a title contender just a month ago. Why can't you take a stranglehold on these sides? Why can't you finish them off?
Well, simply because, they have one option normally, it's to play counter-attack, and meaning playing counter-attack is in fact that you don't own the ball, you leave the ball to the others and you run after the ball. And Guardiola just made an interview saying that they've been struggling, Manchester City, because they didn't have the ball and they were running after the ball and they were getting tired. As Jurgen said, I think Tottenham had many chances in the first half and they would have scored, it would have been another story. But because you run after the ball, and I think Fulham did very well keeping the ball and making Spurs running, they got tired and they didn't make the effort they had to do in the second half because they couldn't anymore. And that's maybe the problem they're gonna face most of the time because they physically not maybe good enough. They did well in the first half, but I think Fulham, we should give credit to Fulham. I think Fulham won't be relegated if they keep on playing like that because they did very well. Cavallero and some other players really pleased me. And Tottenham, they have to. They keep on thinking that defending well and just playing counter-attack will be enough. but it won't be enough in front of team, who are well prepared. And that was the case of Fulham, who played for 90 minutes with everything they had in their guts.
I get it. It's a good little story for Fulham, and there was all this nonsense about the Premier League announced the game late-ish.
Yeah, they announced it on Monday, didn't they?
And Scott Parker wasn't happy because he said, "Oh, I played a full-strength team in the FA Cup. If I'd have known." But listen, it is what it is. And please spare me the details of those people out there that think this is the greatest act against Fulham because they had 2 days' notice. It's not like they got a phone call at 11 o'clock this morning and said, "Oh, by the way, the game's on today." So it had 48 hours' notice to play the game. It didn't affect their performance. But the story here is why Tottenham can allow teams of this calibre to be so dominant at times when I can't get my head around how they can think it's right, and Mourinho thinks it's right, to see that unfolding, and even the players to say, "Look, why can't we keep the ball?
Right.
Why can't we just keep the ball for 10 minutes or so and push them back?"
Craig.
Yes.
Craig, I'm sorry to cut you off. No. Remember Chelsea playing with Mourinho? The only way they were playing is defending well and playing counter-attack. They won the Premier League like that. I never saw any Mourinho's team playing otherwise. That's the way Mourinho likes his team to play.
No, I know, but
Spurs gonna play
against teams in the bottom half of the league, Frank.
Against every teams.
So I've said it for a long time, right? This style only works. So I've been hypocritical here. It only allows you long-term success, and it only appeases supporters and boards and backers when you're getting results.
Right.
If you're not getting, and I know it's not a disaster. I mean, they could still go on a run. I understand that, but what I'm saying is that there's signs that this is not a one-off. That they are allowing teams like the Wolves game. They took a lead at Molineux so early and then camped themselves in the penalty box. You're going to get caught out, and it only appeases the supporters and other people when you're getting results. When you're not getting results, if they don't get in the top four, and it's a real melee for the top four this season, I mean, it's so open, they've got a squad good enough to get in there. And if you're not going to achieve that, and that's still a big question mark, and your performances are not very pretty to watch, and you're letting teams in the bottom of the league dominate you, that's not got longevity. And then you look at the bench. I looked at the bench there. You had Dele Alli, who played against Mourinho at the weekend. Okay, how many, 7th or 8 divisions between them? I get that. But he's something different. Lucas Moura on the bench again. Gareth Bale on the bench. I mean, I can only imagine that Jose Mourinho didn't want Gareth Bale at the club.
Right.
It must have been a Daniel Levy. Daniel Levy must have said, "Here, I've got you Gareth Bale." But why else would he not play him or even utilise him in games that he needs to win? Well, why bother? So it's saying to me that somebody said to Mourinho, "I'll bring you Gareth Bale in." He's went, "Well, bring him in. I'm not going to play him. He's sat on the bench again, isn't he? You tell me Gareth Bale can't change a game if he's fit. So why is he not getting any game? It's a head scratch."
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.